Should you incorporate your hunting or fishing guide business? The answer to this question, like many business questions, is going to be that it depends. But I'm going to give some examples of when you probably should and should not incorporate. I am a CPA, but this is not business advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes. Starting off with when you should not incorporate. If it's the end of the year and you're looking to start your business next year, I would not incorporate until January 1st. The reason is that depending on the state you're in, you're going to have to pay an extra year of fees or potentially a franchise tax for having the company open. Depending on the state, it may not be that big of a deal. In New Jersey, you pay $125 to start the LLC and $75 every following year to keep it active. But in a state like California, you would pay $800 every year in a franchise tax for having the LLC. There are states that have rules saying that if you have an LLC and you open it 15 days before the end of the year and you do nothing with it, you won't owe the franchise tax for the year it was opened. But even with rules like this, I would not risk it, and I would just wait until January 1st. Because if they get it wrong for whatever reason, and for some reason in their system they're saying that you owe the franchise tax even though you don't, it's just a headache to deal with the state taxing authorities when you can avoid it in the first place. The second reason to not incorporate would be if it's the end of the year and you guided earlier in the year, say during the summer, and haven't since. Even if you don't have an LLC, you can still deduct your expenses against your revenues on your tax return. You would just be doing so as a sole proprietor, and this is a common thing to do. You also wouldn't be able to retroactively put your revenue and expenses into the LLC, so there really isn't a good reason to make one. So reasons to start an LLC for your guide business. The first reason to start an LLC for your guide business would be if you plan on doing it full time. The advantages of being an LLC over a sole proprietor is that you de-risk yourself by having your personal liability limited. If your company were to be sued for whatever reason, your personal assets cannot be touched unless you pierce the corporate veil. Running your own business is already risky enough, so you don't want to have something go wrong and end up losing not just your business assets, but also your personal ones too. If you're only going to be guiding part-time, then I would say that it depends on the level of risk involved and what state you're in. If you do fly fishing trips, they're generally a much lower risk than doing bear hunting trips. So a waiver that a client signs is probably good enough to protect you in terms of liability if you were doing the fly fishing trips. If you were doing bear hunting trips, then it really depends on what state you're operating in. A liability waiver and enough insurance coverage is likely enough to protect your personal assets. However, if you're operating in a state like Utah, where it costs $59 to register your LLC and the annual fee is $18 per year, it's a no-brainer to just set up the LLC. If you're operating in Tennessee, where there's a $300 registration fee for the LLC and then a $300 annual fee, you have to weigh your options, because say you're only going to do one trip a year and you're going to make $500 from it. You don't want to be spending $600 setting up an LLC. You're going to be losing money on that. It's not a good proposition. That's all for the video. If you have any questions related to the video, you can comment them below, and if you need any accounting help, you can schedule a meeting at my website, which I'll link below.